Jason Pitts here, 5-time All-Pro, 2-time champion, and head coach of the San Diego Sabers. My family calls me the most money-conscious man in America, and that's okay, because if there's one thing I love, it's a good deal.
What's it like being Mrs. Jason Pitts? In a word, sucky. Why do you always have to spend so much money, Kelly?
Good job, Brat. Daddy's little rhinestone cowgirl.
How much more, Mama? I'm hungry.
So is Mommy, honey. That's a good thing.
Ow!
See, the problem is most black girls learn the cost of cute by the time they're 5 years old. This child's way behind the curve.
How do you know about the Pussycat Dolls?
Please, Mom. I'm going to be 6, not 5.
But your daddy did. He called Cinderella, and she wants you, Lily, and Aubrey to ride on her float.
I don't want you and Mommy to get a divorce.
No one's getting a divorce.
But you're always fighting, so I didn't eat lunch at school all week so I can give this to you. Don't play dumb. I know you love money. Isn't that why you and Mommy are always fighting? How much to make this whole divorce thing go away? Because 10's all I got.
There's not going to be any divorce. Great Daddy's going to take care of this, I promise.
She's so cute.
Hey,
Daddy, I can explain.
don't bother.
Okay?
Who's that lady? Is she gonna be my stepmother? Because I've seen Cinderella and I'm not down with that.
No.
Stop it! You're making Mommy cry! Hi, Mommy. I miss you. It sucks here and it smells like corn chips and feet.
All right, I got your bed all nice and cozy. Cozy.
I don't want to do anything with you. Comprende?
Oh, okay. Oh, you're going to sass me in a foreign language?
You can't tell me what to do. You're a liar. You promised me you wouldn't get a divorce. I hate you! Why don't you just go talk to your girlfriend?
Brittany seems like a very lovely girl. She's not that great. Brittany's a good girl. I mean, she's just acting out. She's been through a lot. The divorce, Jason and Camille breaking up.
And she loved her some Camille. But she's gone. Thank God.
How you treat a guy who shells out his hard-earned cash and breaks his diet for your spoiled little bratty kid?
Get out of my house.
No, just tell me.
Like, pull my arm.
Yeah, well, screw your daughter. Oh!
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. Everything's good. You did the right thing calling me, Brittany.
Baby, I am so sorry.
What if he comes back to get us?
Baby, he is not coming back.
Please, Daddy. Please. Please, don't go.
It's okay.
I have my own reality series. I'm going to be talking about how hard it was being married to you. Did you know how hard it was being married to you?
Did you seriously call in here to plug your stupid reality show? To whore yourself out for attention, that's your business. Until it starts rubbing off on our daughter. And this, and this, and this. You getting it? She's got them splattered all over the internet for everyone to see. I'm taking my daughter.
Go to your room or
what? You gonna spank me?
go to your room. Go to your room. God, relax.
Stop with the BS, Brittany.
Fine. I'm busted, whatever.
Brittany, sit your ass down right now. Now, I know your mom and I are two pretty screwed up individuals. That's true. We have never done anything, ever, to make you think that this is okay. Are you crazy? You're threatening to spank my kid?
Ain't nobody threatening nobody, okay? I've been whittling this branch for 2 hours. Somebody gonna get a switch to their ass.
Wow, you really think money fixes everything? And why wouldn't you? If my parents bought me something shiny or new every time I lost something, that would make me a narcissist too.
Okay, let's go later.
Regret it. Hey, yo. There's my dad. There he is.
Got you in the draft for your school project. I don't want you getting drafted.
Hey, man, you have 10 seconds to get your lips off my daughter and leave the premises.
Daddy? What are you doing here?
I thought I could come in a couple days early. Surprise you. 5.
Brittany, I will call you tomorrow. Mr. Pitt, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Wish I could say the same. 1. So.
Mr. Jiggles?
Oh, you didn't know. Your daughter dating a stripper.
Are you Brittany Pitts? Your condo is officially in foreclosure. Escort her out, boys.
Statement of claims from RT National, and I'm here to collect.
Got to be kidding me. Twice in a week.
You got a mortgage, 2 car notes, and a black card all past due. Total arrears $932,410.06.
I'm sorry, but who are you and why are you manhandling my best friend's child?
I have rich friends, and they thought I was rich. So the next thing I know, I'm keeping up with the Kardashians. You know, they get a condo, I get a condo. I got a black card. I took the girls to Italy.
Rome.
Oh no, Tuscany. God, it was so beautiful.
Ooh, you are your mother's child.
Where you going?
Your mama.
Brittany Olive Pitts, the only child to Jason and Kelly Pitts on the game, and one of the only children depicted on the show. When we see Brittany, especially in the first 3 seasons, she is very young, she's funny, she's comedic, and she's also very precocious. We get a lot from Brittany, and her scenes are often very lighthearted and fun. Now, sometimes they are used to exemplify the harsh environment that Jason creates in order to reach for his goals. He puts a lot of pressure on his wife and daughter, and they accept it, just trying to be team players. But we also note that although Brittany is young, she's smart. And her grandfather warns Jason that she's not only observant, but the deterioration of her parents' marriage is weighing on her heavily, and she's starting to assume unearned responsibility. We see the results of this in her behavior later down the line. A lot of confusion, frustration, longing for community, poor behavior, but also money mismanagement in the Paramount series as an adult. There is a lot to get into with Brittany, and although she wasn't one of the main characters, if we pay close attention to Brittany, the child and one of the only children depicted on the show from start to finish, we can see how her parents' relationship, their marriage, and all of their ebbs and flows weighed on her heavily with disastrous results. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Brittany Pitts, the daughter of Jason and Kelly Pitts, and how their nonsense whirlwind impacted their little girl. And we watch her from the time she's a child to the time she's an adult, and how all of that confusion and nonsense, but also the NFL, impacted her as a human being, as a daughter, but as a woman as well. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. She's not one of the main adult characters, so her story can be easy to miss. There is a lot of drama on the game, especially amongst the adults. We got new characters, old characters, different relationship dynamics. Things are changing around us all the time as viewers, and the children just don't get enough shine. Now, DJ is also another child that was depicted on the show, but DJ is very young and rarely shown. He's spoken about a lot, especially in the later seasons, but rarely shown. But Brittany was there from the beginning, the very beginning. And we see her relationship with her dad define him heavily as a person. We also note that he's in a different place in his life than his counterparts. Malik and Derwin are in different places. Derwin is a rookie. And then Malik, although he's not a rookie, he's still very young. He's dominating his career and he's on the rise. Whereas Jason, who's a husband, a father, and well into his 30s, is on the decline as far as his career. And his forecast is mostly looking beyond what happens on the field for his next phase in his career. So we get to see three different phases of a player's life on the game. And Jason having a child defines him heavily. It's important because he has different priorities and obligations. Case in point, there's a night where Melanie is driving around wanting to talk to someone about the fight she and Derwin had, and she decides to go to Tasha's, but then she remembers Tasha has guns and they're probably locked and loaded, which Tasha confirms. So she decides to go to Kelly's, but when she goes, she wakes Brittany up in the middle of the night, and Jason is pissed.
I was driving back and forth trying to decide if I should go to Tasha's house or stop here. This was my first choice, but it's late and I didn't want to wake up Brittany.
Mommy? Daddy?
Thanks for not waking Brittany.
I'm so sorry, Kelly. I would have talked to Tasha, but it's dark and it's late and I'm sure she has guns.
Locked and loaded.
Again, they have very different priorities and obligations. And while Kelly was happy to talk to her, it wasn't the same as if they were just having girl chat when Brittany is at school. Brittany's presence helps to define the different types of lifestyles each of these pairs or couples are living. But when we drill down into the story of Brittany as a person, as a daughter, but just as a character, we note that she's often overlooked, not just by the show, but by her own parents. A lot of times, she is a tool to exemplify an existing narrative. For example, when she was overworked and overwhelmed in the episode titled It's Hard Being Kelly Pitts, the focus is on Kelly, and it should be. Kelly is going through a lot, and Jason is not making it easier. As a matter of fact, he's going out of his way to make it as hard as possible because he's so focused on the playoffs. But something that gets missed is how hard it is on Brittany.
Way to shop for the bargain, babe, but guess who had to drive Brittany to school? No one. And you know what they call a girl without an education? Yeah, Paris Hilton.
Where's Brittany? I'm dying to see my grandbaby.
Brittany?
Yeah.
Where is she?
Yeah.
She's at her friend Lindsay's house, where I arranged with Lindsay's parents, Martha and Max. Wonderful people who agreed to keep her until I picked her up, which is what I'm going to go do now. I'm really so sorry, Mrs.
I don't get paid enough for this.
This is embarrassing. School ended 2 hours ago.
I know, baby. Hold on.
At a friend's house. Now, you know she lost that girl.
Yep.
Got my grandbaby wandering around like some Brazilian glue huffer.
Mom.
You'd think Kelly at least be a good mom. She got nothing else to do.
With everything you're doing to prove me wrong, killing your wife.
Drive to Kimmy's. I forgot Brittany.
Oh, hold up. You go back to bed. Baby, I'll go get her.
So no, Brittany isn't ironing clothes, making lunches, drawing baths, massaging feet. She's not doing the physical manual labor that her mother is, but she's being forgotten, and she can't drive, and she can't make arrangements for herself. She got left at school for 2 extra hours. Apparently it isn't the first time, because the teacher came out to scold Kelly. Another detail that gives us a glimpse into how well Brittany is being taken care of as far as attention that she receives is her hair. Brittany is a biracial little girl. Her dad is black and her mom is white. Now, Kelly does not know how to do black hair. When we first meet Brittany, her hair is a beehive. It is a nest. It is messy. It is all over the place, tangled, all kind of stuff. Looked like she just looked electrocuted, the poor child. It didn't even look like the basics, which most white moms, when they don't know how to do their black daughter's hair, they run water through it and put it in like a bun or a little ponytail or just something to hold it in place, maybe a beret or something. But more often than not, they just buy products and keep trying until they find something that works. Kelly didn't try anything. It looked like she just looked at the child and blew a blow dryer in her direction and was like, let's go. Like, she didn't try to braid little knickknacks, like a beret, a ribbon. Like, I don't understand why she didn't try something. Now, we do later see that she seeks Tasha's help. But even then, Tasha was combing the child's hair. Tasha is a boy mom. And Tasha is combing the child's hair. And I'm like, girl, comb from the end and work your way up. It's tangled. You don't start at the root.
Ow! See, the problem is most black girls learn the cost of cute by the time they're 5 years old. This child's way behind the curve.
Ow! Mommy, it hurts.
I know, baby, but it's so pretty.
Oh my gosh, it drove me crazy seeing that scene. What I will say though is when Kelly is holding the product and Tasha is just dabbing in there, and like it just brought back all those memories of doing my mom and my grandma doing my hair. But yeah, everybody knows you don't comb from the root until the hair is combed out. That's why the baby was screaming and crying, because you're being careless. I didn't see no blue magic. I didn't see any pink lusters. I didn't see no Bioterra, which is now I think Biolage. I'm not sure. Anyway, I didn't see any Just For Me detangler spray. You don't have to do the perm, but the detangler spray back in the day was actually pretty nice. Like, there's so many options. They didn't even try. And not only that, but one thing I will say is even after that scene where Tasha is doing her hair, it just goes right back to being a mess down the line. Now, here's the thing. Again, I'm cutting Kelly a little bit of slack because she is a white woman who does not know how to do black hair. But just like you learn anything else, why couldn't you just learn how to do this child's hair? Why couldn't you call your mother-in-law? You have all black female friends as your friend group. No one could teach you or help you. It just didn't make any sense to have Brittany running around like that. I feel like that was just kind of like a little sign of neglect. One, to exemplify Kelly's lack of information, but then two, how hard she was working to take care of Jason. She was neglecting herself and her kid. One of the first things she did when she divorced Jason was start getting her own hair done. She even changed her hair color and started styling it. Prior to her leaving Jason, we rarely saw Kelly's hair in a style. We often just saw it either down or in a ponytail or something like that. But she often didn't go to the salon because she didn't have time and Jason was cheap. When she divorced Jason, that season 3 and beyond, Kelly's hair was always done. It had a fresh cut, a fresh color. She always looked very fresh, but so did Brittany. So perhaps Brittany's undone hair was also a sign of how hard Kelly was working to take care of Jason, but also how very little resources they actually had for grooming in their household. Something that also gave me a clue as to how little money Jason was willing to spend was when Brittany complained that the remote control didn't have working batteries, and then all the different steps to get those dead batteries to work versus just buying new batteries. And even then, he didn't buy new batteries. He bought a battery charger. Now, I'm all for being conscious of how you spend, and I'm big on not overspending. I cannot stand to spend money when I don't have to, or spend more money than I need to. I understand being generous, but I also believe in being smart. So I do understand cutting corners here and there to save money. What I don't understand is being abusive financially to your family. So you see Brittany, this little girl, on a Saturday morning sitting on her couch trying to watch cartoons, and she can't even get the remote control to work because her dad won't buy AA batteries. Really? So we do see that Jason's approach to money and financial mismanagement, and then we also see Kelly's passive approach and even some of their little secrets that they had between them creating friction. We see this impact Brittany in major ways. She mostly grows up feeling or looking or acting as if she's been forgotten. And throughout her years, as she gets older, we see that there is this massive search for community. But before we even get there were clues that Brittany was distressed by her parents' deteriorating marriage, and that came from her grandfather. Now, when Brittany went to spend the week with her grandparents, which she often did throughout the show, her grandfather came back and basically said, Brittany has started stealing. And then she also started lying. These are not traits that we know Brittany to have, and it's played for laughs, but this is a 6-year-old little girl. She also admits this to her mom, that she is becoming deceptive. So there's this activity called How Dare You. You have to forgive me because I don't know anything about it, but it's this How Dare You activity. It's supposed to be very childish, and they have all these like little stuffed animals and little trinkets and all this stuff to go with it. And so whenever she comes home, she's holding a bear from How Dare You, and Kelly asks her, like, I thought you were too old for How Dare You. And she goes, you have to entertain the seniors and then you get the money. So she knows how to manipulate. It's very subtle and it's played for laughs, But Britney knows how to manipulate. She infantilizes herself, gives the grandparents that grandparent moment that they're looking for, and then they spoil her with money and gifts. And then when she leaves her "how bear you" somewhere, her grandfather's like, "You forgot your bear." And she was like, "Oh, thank you." Kelly, watch that. Now, again, children push the envelope, but they also practice and act out what they see and what they know. Something we discussed in The Problem with the Pitts Part 1 and The Problem with the Pitts Part 2 is both Jason and Kelly are deceptive as hell.
If we want to fix our marriage, we've got to dig deep and uncover everything that led us here.
The truth is I'm a joke. This marriage is a joke. You turn me into that guy everyone laughs about. You hear him laughing, Kel? Ha ha ha, Jason Pitts, you got sucked in by a gold digger.
But I have been in pain for years, trying to compensate for not truly loving you initially.
This is a long-winded way of admitting this bogus relationship is all your fault.
They have good intentions most of the time, but they're both very deceptive. You don't think their daughter's going to pick up on that? This becomes a leading trait for Britney as she becomes an adult, but we will get there. We also know that when her grandfather warns Jason that Britney's acting out is becoming a problem, he also says, hey, she knows the dynamics of your marriage. She knows what cuddling means. When you say, hey, I want to cuddle with you, Kelly, using what he probably thinks is family-friendly language, Britney knows they're talking about sex. Then in another scene, when Kelly's brother comes to visit, Kelly knows that Jason is going to have a reaction. She tells Britney, hey, go upstairs and put your headphones on. That's so that she can't hear her parents going back and forth. Well, Britney asks, oh, kind of like when you wear that small red skirt and those big shiny red boots? And Kelly goes, exactly. Fast forward, we see Britney start to panic when she notices her parents are no longer happy together and that they might be headed for divorce. So she saves up her lunch money at school, doesn't eat lunch. That is a big deal for a kid. Kids need a lot of food, a lot of sustenance because they burn so much damn energy. And they also have appetites you wouldn't believe. Kids are always growing, so they eat like crazy. For a child to skip lunch, that means this was dire to her, but this is also so much unearned responsibility, and she put all of this on her back. She worked all week, not eating at school, to give her dad $10 to try to get him to forgive her mother so that they could stop arguing about money.
I want you and mommy to get a divorce.
Baby, no one's getting a divorce.
But you're always fighting, so... Here, I didn't eat lunch at school all week, so I can give this to you. Come on, Daddy. Don't play dumb. I know you love money. Isn't that why you and mommy are always fighting? How much to make this whole divorce thing go away? Because 10's all I got.
Now, in every single scene, when we see Jason and Kelly arguing about money, when we see them arguing in therapy, when we see them going back and forth about all of the things that they went through in the deterioration of their marriage related to money, Britney is never in the room. Again, she's perceptive. When they think she's not around, they assume that she's not listening, that she doesn't hear them. And they also assume that she's not as perceptive as she is. She picks up on the passive aggressiveness. She knows what's going on, and she later connects the dots. How else would she be able to properly assess that their dispute was over money despite not being present when they were having their dispute? The devil's in the details, and he was clocking all of it and then putting all of that stress and pressure on herself to fix her parents' marriage. How completely unfair. And then later, when her parents finally do divorce, she feels betrayed because her dad literally looked her in the eye and said, no one is getting a divorce. But they do.
I don't want you and mommy to get a divorce.
Baby, no one's getting a divorce. There's not going to be any divorce. Okay, Daddy's going to take care of this, I promise.
You can't tell me what to do. You're a liar. You promised me you wouldn't get a divorce. I hate you.
Brittany, get...
Hey, listen, man. She is a little girl, all right? And this whole divorce thing is scary for her. Bro, she's just looking at you to show her what's up, man. But if you blow her off now, like she probably thinks you did Kelly, then you are going to be the first in a long line of men she lets do that to.
I know this must be really hard on you. I know there's a lot of stuff going on that you don't understand. And to tell you the truth, I don't understand it either. But that's why we're going to need each other, you know? So we can figure this out together. Okay, we can work together on this like a team. Deal?
Deal.
Bring it in.
Now, one of my favorite scenes is when Jason and Kelly finally come together to explain their separation to Britney. And they also make her pancakes and they give her a cat. It's a very difficult scene, and it's never going to be easy to explain to your child that your family dynamic is changing, especially when a parent is moving out. It's just her and her parents. There's no buffer. I had the blessing of having an older sibling, so I had somebody to talk to and question these things with. it's just Britney. I can't imagine how lonely and isolating that had to feel for her. And even though they did explain it, she was frustrated. Now, the best thing I saw in that conversation is they allowed her to erupt in emotion. No, it's not easy seeing your child struggle, especially with something so emotionally taxing. But I love that Jason and Kelly did not pressure her to contain herself. They allowed her to express and get it out, and they answered her questions. Even when she ran off and she just needed to process and needed a moment alone, they gave her that. They did a really good job of depicting that scene, because it is never easy hearing that your parents are going to separate. It's also not easy hearing that you're going to be gaining new family members, whether through a step parent or more children. It's always difficult. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it is always a challenge because things are changing. And as a child, you are essentially helpless. You can't do more as a child than what the adults around you allow you to. That adds to the pressure and the weight of life changing around you as a kid. But then you also have the pressures of your own individual life. I still got to go to school. I still have to interact with my friends. I still have a quiz on Friday. I still want to get into the spelling bee. I have my own life going on, and I have no idea what will happen at 3:01 when I step out of this class when I go home. Will my dad be there? Will my mom be there? What will be going on in that house? Will it be friendly? Will it be hostile? Will it be uncomfortable? It's a difficult time, and no matter how much you manage it, it's still going to be challenging. For Britney to be going through that at such a young age, but also completely by herself, my heart breaks for her. Then later, while they're going through the divorce in season 3, both parents are attempting to move on, and that starts to bleed over into Britney's life, which is a big no-no. Now, I have to level set here because we are talking about changing and shifting family dynamics. I want to be very clear. I'm only talking about the Pitts, who are a fictional family in a fictional world. And sometimes I will add context by sharing some of my own experience as the child of 2 divorced people. I want all families to do what works for them, and I want them to blend seamlessly. So that is up to each individual family unit. Y'all know what works best for you. So I'm not speaking to anyone else outside of the Pitts and myself. I always recommend easing new people into the child's life. Springing new people onto children can feel overwhelming and intimidating. And as someone who met several partners, I can tell you at some point you just stop remembering names. Now, I won't put anyone's business out because everyone has found their path and everyone has moved on and was able to get through that very difficult time of dating and relationships, etc. And so everyone else has moved on. But at that time, as a kid, I was already processing my parents' divorce and breakup as the only divorce in my family. On one side, I'm meeting new partners all the time, like maybe 2 to 3 new partners in a span of a year. And then sometimes these people had children. So I was also bonding with kids thinking that we were going to be siblings. But one thing I will say is some people are just meant to be parents and or step parents, caretakers, or guardians. I remember meeting my stepmom, Wanda, and I remember thinking, I'm so glad my parents divorced so that I could meet her. And I was so happy she was my third parent. You couldn't tell me nothing. I just thought she was the sweetest human being in the world. She was just so caring and loving. And sometimes she would even just call to check on me. We were having the time of our life, okay? We were having a blast. She was just so fun and funny. Very sweet person, just a very good person. He could not have picked a better second mother for me. And then when they didn't work out, I took that harder than my parents' divorce. I was like, no. I ended up kind of hitting the jackpot with step parents that first go round. But that's not always the case. And you hear horror stories. So my heart goes out to anyone forced to be in an environment with someone who resents them or doesn't care about them or doesn't like them. That is on the parent to protect their child from that energy, because you don't have to be a step parent. You could literally just say no. So we see her parents start to try to date. We see Jason first begin dating Camille, who's played by Stacey Dash. And Camille is this news broadcaster in the sports world. She's very nice. She has a very light energy. And so whenever Jason and Camille got serious, Jason was very strategic about how he introduced Camille to Britney. And so he asks Kelly, hey, I would like to introduce Camille to Britney. And even Kelly is like, so soon? Are y'all even getting serious? And he said, yeah, we're getting serious. I agree with Kelly on that. And I think I mentioned this in the other problem with the Pitts video. It was very soon because the divorce wasn't even final yet. And sometimes divorces can take years, but this one did not. And so they didn't really need to move that fast, and they weren't crossing paths enough, in my opinion, for this to warrant such a rapid process. But he felt like it was important, and maybe there was a reason he wanted to do that. And so he asked Kelly, and Kelly agreed, which I loved that. That was such a nice way to go about it. He didn't get egotistical and say, I can do what I want with my daughter, because both parents put Britney first. We see Camille join Jason at one of Britney's soccer games. Now, again, Kelly knew this was happening, but in the moment, she started to feel a whole different type of energy than she expected, and she starts lashing out at Camille. It looked like jealousy, but really, I think it was being territorial. This is my world. I'm wearing the B hat. I'm one of the team moms. This is my daughter. And suddenly, I'm going to have to share my child, the child I pushed out with my husband, with another woman who I don't know, nor do I like. That would push anybody's buttons. Kelly did the best she could with how she handled this. But if you weren't completely ready and you hadn't run that scenario through your mind a number of times and found a way to walk yourself back when you felt like you were getting anxious, it wasn't time to do that, and it was way too early. I think the issue is she wanted Jason to feel like she was cool and she was over it. She didn't want to appear to be hung up on him. But what she really should have done was just tell Jason, I don't know if I'm ready for that. So Camille is there and she's handling all of these snarky comments from Kelly with grace. Then we see her engage with Britney in a very relaxing yet still engaging way.
To be supportive. Maybe you're too busy entertaining your guests.
Okay. I thought you were cool with this.
And I am, Kelly. You know, even though we only got to talk for just a minute before the game, Britney seems like a very lovely girl.
She's not that great.
Just that Bex told me when he's facing a really tough opponent, he focuses on looking for a weakness in the other team's defense.
Yes.
Or he fakes an injury so he doesn't have to play.
I think you need to chill out just a little bit.
I'm chill. I'm so chill, I'm icy.
You cut Camille off like 5 times.
She has a talk show. She's used to it.
Come on, bring it in.
Baby!
Thanks for the tip. Once I saw that the other team's fullback was too busy picking a wedgie from her butt, I just blew right past her.
Way to capitalize. Just make sure when you shake the other team's hand, she doesn't slip you the stink palm.
I like you. You're always thinking.
And when they meet, Britney likes her immediately. Like immediately she likes her. Camille didn't come in trying to prove anything. Camille didn't come in with any hangups like, oh, that's your baby mama. Let me have a baby too so I can win. Like she didn't come in with that kind of competitive energy. Trust me, meeting step parents who are competing with existing parents or ex-partners or whatever is exhausting. Like, child, if you wanted them other people and if them other people wanted them, you wouldn't be here. Relax. Like, good God, you're ruining the fun. Camille didn't show up with that competitive energy. She didn't show up with that chip on her shoulder. She showed up completely normal, content, happy, and excited to meet Britney, and it resulted in very positive interactions. But then we also see Roman. This is where my issue with Kelly comes in. Because no, she can't control Roman, and she did the best she could to keep her worlds separate. She had already dated Joe, and Joe never met Britney. And so now she's in another relationship where they do everything the opposite that she did with Joe, with the exception of not meeting Britney yet. She didn't want him to meet Britney. But the issue is Roman was ready to put their relationship in overdrive. He wanted to rush the process. He wanted her to be his girlfriend, but he also wanted to prove something to Jason. After that engagement party at Malik's house, I feel like Roman felt like he had something to prove to Jason. So he wanted to rush the relationship with Kelly. And that hinged upon meeting Britney. When he found out Camille was meeting Britney, then he wanted to meet Britney. But when Kelly said no, he did not respect her no. I understand completely why she handled it the way she did, but then also why she broke things off. Again, I just simply say the one thing I would change about that is I would always encourage you to break up with someone you don't know that well in a public space, and damn sure don't do it around your child or another vulnerable party. Do it where you can maintain the energy and you can get out if needed. So Roman forces himself into the situation and meets Britney. And you can tell, like I said, Britney is perceptive. She doesn't like Roman. She's cool with him and she agrees to have fun with him with the ice cream thing and all that. But later when she goes home, she calls her dad because she said he made her uncomfortable. And the thing I love most about Jason, this is the one thing I will never take off Jason. When his daughter calls, here he comes. I don't give a shit what they're going through, because there have been several times Britney has pushed his buttons. When his daughter needs him, all that macho man nonsense, all that egotistical, frugal nonsense, all that is by the wayside. But I also love that Britney recognized the signs that something was off. She picked up on the energy, and instead of trying to handle that on her own, she called a reliable adult. her father. This is why it's so important to always maintain a presence in your child's life, because you really never know when they'll need help or what kind of help they'll need. And if you're out here being petty or I'm not going to call because she need to call me sometimes, I need to call her sometimes. This is why it's so important to be the adult in the relationship with you and your child, because when your child meets a problem that they cannot solve, they need to know there is a safe adult that they can call on. And that's what Jason was. Prior to Camille coming around, Jason had actually been dating as another woman, Jazz, who later went on to marry Javon. So Jason was coping with their divorce. He had been very depressed that Kelly was moving forward with the divorce. And so he starts partying a lot with Malik, and he takes a woman home one night. He forgot, because he overslept, he forgot that Kelly was supposed to be dropping Brittany off at his apartment. So the next morning when Kelly and Brittany show up, Jason is shocked, but he's stunned, like there's a woman still here. Like it took him a minute to collect himself as well. And all of this is, happening in real time. And he just seems really put off by it. And so he tells Kelly, like, hey, can I just come by later? And like, he's trying to get Kelly and Brittany out of the apartment. Now, Kelly is a mom, but she is also a woman. And I just wish in this situation, she had put on her mom hat and been like, whatever he is rushing us out of here for, even though I want to see it, even though I want to know what the hell he got going on, she doesn't need to see it. So we're going to go, and me and him going to hash this out later. I just feel like Kelly should have recognized like something is off and taken her child and then later checked back in.
Hey, Brittany, Belly, what you guys doing here?
It's your day with Brittany. What, did you forget?
You shower, get all showered up, take some medicine, then I'll come pick up Brett in like an hour or so. What do you say? How's that sound? Does that sound good?
Jason, what's going on?
Nothing. I'm having plumbing problems.
Jason, who's in the bathroom?
No one.
Oh, she's so cute. Hey.
Hold up, wait. Wait a minute.
Who's that lady? Is she gonna be my stepmother? Because I've seen Cinderella and I'm not down with that.
No, big Brett.
Jason, I can't believe you. How could you do this?
No, hold up. Hey, hold up. Look, hey, I'm sorry Brittany had to see this, Cal. My choice has always been to be with you. You're the one pushing me away.
Stop it! You're making mommy cry!
It wasn't fair to Brittany to witness her dad like that, but that's also not Kelly's job to fix Jason's mistakes. I just wish one of them had been more cognizant that Brittany was in the room. And again, I'm putting a lot of pressure on Kelly because she also didn't know that Jazz was there, but there's a moment where you can tell she realizes there's a woman there because she goes to the bathroom and says, "Who's in the bathroom, Jason?" Instead of asking that to your soon-to-be single ex-husband, you should have said, "Hey, do you have a guest? We're gonna go." Kelly should have had Brittany front of mind in that moment. And I just feel like the shock of it all just put her in dire straits. And that's why she reacted that way. Because in my opinion, it's on Kelly's past behavior. If Kelly had been aware that there was a woman, she never would have shown up. I just feel like the shock of it all is really what took hold of her. Now, we do see that Jason was panicked and trying to get them out before they saw Jazz. He was aware that Brittany was there. He was aware that Kelly was there. And he didn't want either of them to be exposed to what he was doing when they weren't around. And that's fair. But bruh, this is your child. Like, when you knew somebody was there and you recognized, like, I don't want my daughter running into this random woman, you should have just said, "Kelly, I overslept. I had a guest. Can y'all please come back later?" Instead of all that hemming and hawing. But Brittany sees it and she gets very upset with her dad. She recognizes that this behavior has hurt my mom. She probably never sees her mom cry like that. So she goes into protection mode. And even Jason later notes, like, the way Brittany looked at him broke his heart. Now, one thing I will say about Brittany, even though the actress is very young and she does have like little kid acting skills, very cute, she pulled it out in this scene. I was so proud of her. I don't even know this child, but I was so proud of her. Every time I see this scene, I'm like, go ahead, baby. Do it. Let them know. It was just so cute. Like, she's so good at her little job. Nobody wants to see their parents hungover and with random tricks popping in and out of the house. Like, come on, Jason, get it together. I couldn't even believe he took her back to his home as opposed to like a hotel or something like that. Like, we see this as a defining moment for both Jason and Brittany. And so when Brittany comes back to his house, she is pissed. Do you hear me? She is pissed. She is not letting up off Jason. She was on his ass. Jason's ass was grass and Brittany was the lawnmower, and she was on her full John Deere energy. She was like, "Let me tell you something, like Wright, you break my mama's heart again and I'm going full Tasha Mack." Usually Jason and Brittany are on one accord. They're very close, but when it comes down to protecting her mother, she don't play any games. And Brittany, I don't blame you. But we see Jason try to force her to start acting happy and act grateful. And she's like, hell no. Then we see him take a more compassionate route. And that's because Derwin actually said, hey, all of this is probably scary for her. So instead of pushing back, Why don't you try to break through? And you know what, Derwin? You were ready for parenthood. Good job. And so Jason refuses to give up on her. When she comes out of the bathroom and she's still Miss Sassy Pants, he just levels with her. He's like, what's going on? We have to communicate. And she says, I don't know, go talk to your girlfriend, because that's jarring to see your parent with another person outside of your other parent. But he breaks it down for her. He basically explains to her like he doesn't know what's going on either. And he's actually scared. He's scared about the future because he doesn't want to lose his family. And he even deploys some of her help in trying to figure this out together. I actually thought that was a really sweet moment from Jason. We rarely get moments from Jason where he's not an egomaniac. So seeing that Brittany is the chink in his armor, like I can hold up a veneer for all of the rest of this shit. But when it comes to my baby, I simply cannot. But we eventually see that Brittany's lashing out, her acting out, and some of her deceptive behavior has become somewhat of a mask that she wears and a way to guard herself when things are changing too much and things get scary for her. Now we fast forward to post-divorce, the BET years, where we see Kelly has her own show, her alimony is coming through, and those checks are hitting just right. She's pouring money all over herself, just living well. She's got a TV show. Then we see Jason. He's finding his way as a single man, having broken up with Camille. And then he's also a correspondent with Chris Webber on a talk show, on a sports talk show. And so he's engaging in another career. Kelly's engaging in another career, and they both seem to be dismissing Brittany. Brittany essentially lives with her grandparents now. She does these drop-offs with her parents, and each of them just leaves her either alone when she's at Kelly's or with her grandparents when she's supposed to be at Jason's. Their whole back and forth has now spread into a public display of hostility where they're both going back and forth with each other on TV. And we're noticing that Brittany is essentially living in her phone and in her headphones, and all day, every day, she's essentially talking to her friends and becoming more withdrawn and reclusive.
Yo, I see why your wife left you. And speaking of your wife, my producers are telling me we have your wife live on Skype right now. She's our fan of the day and she wants to get off the bench.
Hi, Jason.
Kelly, what the hell do you want?
To get off the bench.
She is no longer sharing openly with her parents. She's no longer asking questions. She's no longer seeking clarity. She seems that she's suppressing the anguish and confusion that she's feeling through these antics of lashing out. We see that Brittany starts stealing again. She stole weed from Tasha. We see that she's now talking back. She is also now showing her body online and taking very inappropriate photos. And they're very similar to the photos that Kelly was taking and posting online, which is something Jason notes. And so we see her parents are kind of at odds as to like, what do we do about this? But Jason realizes like, the only way to solve this is for me to be 100% involved in my child's life. So we see him decide to get rid of his new career and focus 100% on Brittany. Later down the line, when Brittany kind of levels out, she still kind of has her like sassy pants spoiled behavior, but she levels out to where like the lashing out and the deception is no longer the issue. She becomes kind of like a attitudinal. They paint her as like an attitudinal kid. And I do feel like her being a Black girl played into that. She's got an attitude kind of thing. Black girls and teens are often looked at as having an attitude. We are rarely afforded the option to just be introverted or to be quiet or even confused or fearful or sad or have a bad day or to feel sick, what have you. If we are not performing happy, especially in those teen years, it seems like a lot of people get triggered by Black teenage girls. I don't know what that's about. I know it's rooted in racism, and I know it's rooted in misogyny, and I know it's rooted heavily in inherent misogynistic beliefs by other women, but also by men. But there just seems to be this very common experience that a lot, not all, but a lot of Black teenage girls experience of, if we aren't performing happy, then we have an attitude. And it almost seems like it triggers people to want to provoke some kind of hostile interaction. I don't know what that's about, and I would love to learn more about that. But an inordinate amount of young Black women, or just Black women, have experienced that in their teens and have talked about it openly. And it is very concerning. Not all, but a lot of moms, even aunts, siblings, cousins, like parents, a lot of caretakers or adults within community with a Black teenage girl will provoke the Black teenage girl for no reason. It's like, they know that she's already going through a lot and she's likely withdrawing or becoming more introverted as she's trying to process all the changes that happen in your teen years, which is a hell of a lot of changes biologically and also with school and in the space that you are in your life at that time. It's a lot coming at you. You're also slowly coming into your womanhood, and that requires a lot of time and a lot of ease and a little bit of finesse. Like, I don't know how to navigate this. I'm starting to date. I'm starting to have feelings I never had before. I'm starting to have experiences I never had before. I'm trying to learn where the boundaries are, where the line is. I'm trying to keep up in school and stay engaged with my family unit. And I'm trying to, deal with my changing body and my changing thoughts and mindsets. There's so much, but with every other demographic, there seems to be a little grace afforded, like, oh, they're going through a lot, they're teens. But with young Black girls, it's like, oh, she's got a bad attitude. They like that. They neck roll and they attitude. Like, even Jason several times refers to Brittany as having a neck rolling moment, or he kind of reduces her to these stereotypes of the angry Black woman. And this is a whole child. He shouldn't be using those stereotypes anyway. Chances are, if a human being is angry, there's a reason for it. Has nothing to do with their color, except for however you went about making them angry. That might be where the issue lies.
I don't have anything against Black women. Some of my best friends' wives are Black women. My daughter is Black, despite how often we relax her hair to try to make her look like she isn't. She already has the attitude, neck rolls, all that.
Oh, you know what? It does not stop with you, does it?
That's my campaign t-shirt, come on.
Sorry, Daddy, but your soon-to-be second ex-wife does not want to talk to you because you spent the night with my mother, who, by the way, frequently has male company whenever I visit her. So if I were you, I'd probably get checked out. Bye.
Hey!
She's at it again. Hello? Little Miss Brittany has graduated to the art of the 5-finger discount.
Look, when I'm giving that one an ounce of energy.
Sit there and behave yourself. Of course, Mother.
It's now commonly accepted that laying a baby on his stomach can contribute to sudden infant death syndrome.
Yeah, this baby has no chance.
You know what, little... Wait a minute. You trying to embarrass me, little girl? I'm a hormonal woman in my mid-40s that don't know what the hell I'm about to do with a baby. Okay, are you happy?
Okay, and I'm going to help you be the best mother ever. Okay? And who's going to help you? Excuse me? You and I have an open, honest line of communication. Oh, we do? That's very funny. Because I can't even remember the last time we communicated, considering the fact that you're never here anymore. I'm here now. Yeah, for her! And I want you to know, I am always here for you. Really, Mom? Were you there for me when Liza broke up with me? Were you there for me when Deb said I was a half-breed on Facebook? These aren't things I want to talk about through text or email. And then when you come to town, all you do is throw your credit card at me and tell me to go shopping.
Not that they're angry. What did you do to them? And are you saying that whatever I do to this person because she's a Black woman, she's not supposed to be mad about it? She's not supposed to respond? She's not supposed to advocate for herself? Black teenage girls advocating for self triggers so many people because how dare you talk back to me? A lot of times, even when Black girls are, and I'm not saying this doesn't happen to other groups, but I'm saying it happens a lot, an inordinate amount to Black teenage girls, more so than other demographics. But other demographics probably experience this too, for sure. We're human. But for some reason, when Black girls are confused or they ask for clarity or they don't understand something or hell, even advocate for themselves, when they're given unfair rules or unfair responses or unfair treatment and they point it out, suddenly they're talking back. So not only do they have to live in environments that don't nurture their growth and evolution and development, but should you question how I'm treating you, which is often unfair, I'm often putting the weight of the rest of the siblings on you. I'm asking you to acquire some of the adult responsibilities throughout the household. Even when you have a sibling that is a male of the same age, he doesn't get the responsibilities you get, but you get them because you're a woman. So the men don't, not always, but a lot of times men don't have to come in and wash dishes and vacuum and clean up and do all this stuff after school. They're allowed to just get to homework and do whatever. But girls have to come in and take care of their younger siblings, take care of the household, help do this, help do that. And it's unfair. I want to keep reiterating, I'm not talking about everybody. A very high amount of young Black girls who were teenagers had the experience of experiencing the eldest daughter trope. There's a reason, there's a name for it. And although Brittany doesn't have younger siblings, there seems to be this view of her as problematic the moment she becomes a teenager or the moment she hits puberty. Suddenly she becomes a small woman as opposed to a child still living through the evolution of her world and the evolution of her body biologically. She's experiencing life, and the adults around her did not afford her any amount of grace to not only go through that, but also the experience of her life changing when her parents divorced. There's this belief that she's young, she's rich, she's spoiled, so why do we have to tend to her anyway? There are these moments where Jason talks about Brittany as if she's just some random woman off the street who's just an inconvenience to his life. That's a far cry from how he spoke about her when she was a child. When she was an innocent child and she was a little girl, and when he could infantilize her, then she was okay. But the moment she began growing into her own as a young woman, It's almost like he just completely gave up on her.
Where's Brittany?
She traded up. It was all me till Kimmy called with promises of cupcakes and dress-up dollies.
You can't get your feelings hurt every time your baby wants to hang out with her friends.
I think we need a new one, baby.
Since when?
I've been thinking about it for a while. I mean, Brittany's great and everything. It's just, she started wearing dresses. She doesn't like playing ball anymore. She stopped laughing at my fart jokes. She turned into a girl.
The way he speaks to and about her is sometimes very, very hard to listen to. I get that they're playing it for laughs, but there's a moment where he actually makes a joke with Chardonnay by saying, we straighten Brittany's hair so that no one knows she's black. What's funny about that? He even at one point said the sassy neck rolling, blah, blah, blah. Mind you, no one rolls their neck more than Jason. No one snaps their neck and all the hemming and hawing. The way he makes fun of Tasha, you would think that he wasn't doing that his damn self. No one on the show is sassier than Jason. Yet all of a sudden his daughter advocating for herself or speaking out or asking questions or pushing back, suddenly that's a problem when you could have just taken the time to explain to her what was going on or establish boundaries and rules or work with her on changing her behavior through positive, maybe even constructive reinforcement. There's so many different ways he could have gotten through to her. There's so many different ways he could have course corrected. Instead, he relegated her to being nothing more than a duffel bag that he drops off at random people's homes while he talks shit about her in front of her, expecting her to be quiet and cool about it. And then her mother is no better because the moment her mother realized that she was missing that world of the NFL, blah, blah, she completely dumps Brittany off on Jason at a time when she needed her mother more than any other moment in her life as a teenager. There is no more important moment to have your mom as a young girl than when you are becoming a teen. That is the most important time to have your mom. And she dumped her off on Jason and then went to France for 3 years and they essentially became texting pen pals. And then you have Brittany there being spoken about as some kind of vermin, like she's less than a vermin or a rodent. They're all speaking about her disrespectfully. Tasha threatens to spank her. Like there's this lack of compassion, empathy, understanding, or even just basic consideration that isn't afforded to Brittany because she is a young black teenage girl going through a rough time and coming into her own as a woman. The moment they realized that she was no longer able to be boxed into that little child box, they didn't want anything to do with her. Because you no longer feed the narrative. You're no longer the cute kid who can make me feel like big hero dad and very important mom. Now you're a young woman who's asking real questions, who's curious about her environment, who's holding you accountable, who's advocating for herself, who's speaking up and speaking out. And for a household that relies heavily on suppression and repression, Jason, someone who isn't known for accountability and doesn't like to be questioned, this is his worst nightmare. An immature parent and a forthright eldest daughter are one hell of a combo. Because once the eldest daughter, and they don't even have to be the eldest daughter, that's just the trope, but once the older daughter who's been taking the responsibility, especially over the emotional well-being of their family, but oftentimes the household itself, once that daughter realizes how much they've been exploited, how they've been mistreated, and how very little their needs were met, they start advocating for themselves, it completely demolishes that entire toxic cycle, which is why so many eldest daughters or people in that role go no contact, because you're essentially asking people to rewire their entire operating system, and they just won't do it. People hold on to their bad habits and their shortcomings like it's a life raft. A lot of times people cannot hear how they've treated others because they didn't plan to be held accountable. They rely on the idea that we just forgive because we family, we just move past it, don't keep digging up bones. No contact is a great option when you realize that people are not going to change, nor do they care how they've treated you, because it's not necessarily about what's happened in the past, it's about how that came to be and the mindset that fostered that kind of treatment, and the fact that that mindset still exists, the fact that you didn't care about your child enough to not treat them that way, and the fact that you still don't care about them enough to admit that you were wrong, the fact that when you knew better, you chose not to do better. You're holding on to your faults and your trauma and your own stories so tightly that you're not making room for the harm you've caused, and you're asking this person to be burdened with the things that you projected onto them when they deserve so much more. So when kids go no contact, kids are tired. People are tired of being mistreated, especially now that we've all realized that we can give ourselves the life of our dreams without being someone else's mental, emotional, or even physical punching bag. It's possible to live a full life, and we don't have to stay connected to toxic cycles or toxic people to do so. So when you see someone like Brittany and she's coming into her own, and everyone in her world treats her like a disadvantage of some kind, they treat her like she's a lag to take care of. They all debate about who's going to watch her because it's such a big inconvenience. They talk about her behavior. They talk about how annoying she is. They talk about where they went wrong. They essentially use her as fodder to talk about with other people, and they're talking about her oftentimes around her, but they're not even making space for her. They're essentially telling her, you have to endure whatever environment we create for you, and if you talk back, then you're the problem. If Britney were to go no contact, that shit would make perfect sense. But then Britney meets Chardonnay. Chardonnay is played by Brandy Norwood, who also played Moesha, one of the best coming of age shows for a young Black girl. And one of the things that I love is that Chardonnay, although challenged by Britney and also acknowledging sometimes that Britney can be difficult, she was patient, loving, and understanding with Britney. And Britney bonded with her. So much so that I noticed this very subtle shout out to Chardonnay in the Paramount series, but they wanted to emphasize the impact that Chardonnay had on Britney. And since the show on the Paramount series centered around Britney, Tasha, Mack, and Malik, they showed that little shout out by having Britney wear a nameplate necklace that was identical to Chardonnay's. And the reason that's important is because one, Chardonnay was the only person on the show that had a nameplate necklace, and that was part of her signature. But also Jason challenged Chardonnay about it. He thought it was ridiculous to have your name on a necklace, and he kind of made fun of her for it, only for his daughter, who was so impacted by Chardonnay. And it was very clear she not only got Britney into college, but Britney also chose Chardonnay's alma mater. So later we see Britney as a full-grown adult having graduated college, and she's wearing the Chardonnay necklace. I love that closing of the loop, that she's still a presence in Britney's life. I really wish we would have been able to see adult Britney and adult Chardonnay interact and see how that bond turned out. So anyway, we see Britney become an adult in spite of everything. We see Britney become an adult. Her parents are now remarried and they're off living their best life. So Britney graduates college. She starts living on her own, and she starts to kind of fall in with this very rich group of people, and she's trying to keep up. And while Britney does come from money, she comes from cheap ass money. Jason is not about to be blowing money on random condos and cars and all kind of stuff. So Britney starts taking out lines of credit in her parents' name by having them co-sign because she's forging signatures. But then she doesn't pay any of it back because the business she started got ruined by the pandemic. And so she can't pay any of her bills anymore, and all of it comes due at the same time. So she retreats from Miami, moves to Las Vegas with a friend, and starts over as Tasha's assistant so that she can pay back her debts without her parents ever knowing. We see her kind of still having that deceptive nature, and it's something that Tasha calls out. She uses Tasha's connections to start her business. She has a lot of these issues with thinking she was above the grit work that was required to do the job she was doing. She's paid very well. She ends up getting a boyfriend in the NFL. He's also a rookie. His name is Jameson, and they have a really cute little relationship. I actually really enjoyed watching them a lot more than Kira and Blue from the BET years. But something I noticed, although I still wasn't into the adult thing, the adult virgin thing with Kira, if they still wanted to do that budding romance for the youth kind of story, they could have easily done that with Britney. And if they'd done it with Britney, I feel like it would have hit better because we've watched Britney grow up. So seeing her hit those milestones would have been a little bit more impactful for the audience. And I feel like it would have had the audience a little bit more invested than having this random person, Kira, that we didn't know anything about. So anyway, we also see her reunite with Jason, and we start to pick up on their dynamic. She challenges him. A lot of the things that he was worried about, which was her sleeping around or dating around and kind of having this whole life outside of his view, and she's no longer under his thumb. We see that has come into fruition, but we also see how different Jason is now. In the Paramount series, he's a lot more calm and he's patient and he's understanding. There's a moment where Tasha talks to Jason and she says, "Hey, Britney doesn't think you're proud of her. And a lot of the pressure she puts on herself is to prove to you that she can make something of herself." And he seems completely shocked. He was like, "I'm very proud of Britney. What you talking about?" And she was like, "That's what she told me." Instead of him, the Jason of the past would have gotten defensive. Instead, he reaches out to Britney to remind her that he thinks the world of her, so much so that he invests in her business and he announces it publicly to her surprise. It is one of my favorite moments of the Paramount series, especially since I liked this new Britney as well. I liked all the Britneys. I know people have their favorites. I like them all. I still feel like the way they brought in the second Britney, it just felt weird because the rest of the cast came back and then you just change out this Britney for no reason. But the reason they changed her out was so they could age her up, so they could start challenging the parents with, I still feel like they shouldn't have done that. That was a bad call. This Britney, she and Jason are very close. She's navigating this NFL world as a girlfriend, but also as the executive assistant to a manager, a very popular manager. We see her navigate her career, her new relationship, and all the drama that comes with the NFL world, but also having a dad who is a Hall of Famer in this world. And we get to see that play out only over the course of 2 seasons. So we don't get much of adult Britney, but we do see that Jason's financial mismanagement impacted her severely because she had no idea how to manage her finances, and all of her stuff was in foreclosure and being repossessed, and she was going through it, and she was hawking Hall of Fame memorabilia of Jason to pay for all the stuff that she had acquired. Like, she was making some severe mistakes. What I don't understand is how they never knew. especially since Jason watched his money like so tightly, how he never knew that his name had been used for a line of credit. I know she forged his signature, but they didn't call the house once. All of it is just so fishy to me. And you would think that being a celebrity and having all this money, that he would watch his money and his name and his credit a little bit closer, but who knows? So we see Brittany go from a young little girl who's sweet and precious to a teenager who's trying to navigate all of the changes happening around her with herself and with her family. And she begins to rebel a little bit. And then we see her become an adult who's now applying all of the lessons taught and those that weren't taught to her life, and how that has created such a cocktail for chaos for little Miss Brittany. But overall, she figures it out. Brittany is a very cool character, and I love that they chose to center her in the Paramount Plus series. It's a very creative way to go. Although I would have loved to have more seasons, I do feel like we were able to get a great grasp on her as a character and how she applied all of the lessons that she learned, but also that her future was bright, and that was because of her tenacity, her hard work, and her intelligence. Brittany was savvy. At times, she could be deceptive, but she was made for the business world, and I guess that makes sense considering she grew up in it. She grew up in the NFL. She grew up in the business world, so this was a natural calling for her. So it was really great to see that over the course of 2 seasons. So of course I have to ask, what was your favorite Brittany moment in that rebellious phase? And did you like Brittany with Jameson? Let me know. So that's all I have today. It was really fun talking about Brittany. We rarely talk about this character on the show. She was played as a background character, but she actually packed a punch with her storyline, and she definitely kept the story moving forward. I really loved what they chose to do with this character, and I wish we were able to get more series on Paramount. That's all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.